I started with a dream, but came to a decision. I started with a dream, but now I have a mission. I have a goal to see beyond my vision with imagination.
Hello, greetings from Berlin, where I am in my lovely hotel room. This is one of the not so nice things about traveling all the time. I didn't end up with a good place, and the bed is super uncomfortable and it's terrible. But you know, it's a short period, so you take the good with the bad in this life. I wanted to follow up on my last video about role preparation. I did a very technical approach about how I actually get a new role into my head and things, but there's an extremely important element, well, several more elements actually, that go into bringing a role to life, not just learning it, but actually helping create a very believable character, one that is true to the composer, that is true to the character, as true as we can make it, and one that really, I think, helps show our unique interpretation of it. The last thing the world needs is an imitation of somebody great. When I was first working on Carabino, I remember listening to Frederica von Stade over and over and over and over, because she, for me, was the quintessential paragon of this. And it took me several tries at the role. I had sung it in Houston one time, I'd sung it in Santa Fe, I did it one other time, Munich. And then I didn't have a good reception there. And then I took it to Paris. So it was my fourth time with the role, and it was only in Paris that I felt like I actually really found my footing on it, because the idea of doing this role that to me belonged to Flicka, it took me a long time psychologically to get over that hump. So I had to sort of, along the way, try and find ways that it made it feel like I was finding an interpretation that was unique to me. People may or may not like it, they may prefer other interpretations, but at least I know that it's my voice that is coming to this. And really, ultimately, that's all we can ever bring to the table, is what we have to offer as an individual. So it takes a lot of work to try and find out what that is. First of all, about yourself, what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and what you feel and think about things. It takes a while to come to that, and I hope that discovery process never stops. But the other part is that you have to spend a lot of time in the shoes of the character, or in the notes of the character, and really decide how you feel about it, in conjunction with the style and the interpretation and the translation and all those other things I talked about in my last blog. But I wanted to show you something. For example, let's see if I can handle this better than last time. I don't have a scanner with me, otherwise I would scan this in. But for example, what we have is we're still at the beginning of the opera, and we're still learning a little bit about who Octavian is and what the relationship is between he and the Marschallin. And they've just exchanged a little lovely sort of tete-a-tete, having tea, having breakfast in the morning, and they're in a very good place. And then all of a sudden she gets a little anxious, and she starts talking about this dream that she had last night. And of course he gets immediately jealous, irrationally jealous, but he's young. And she says, she was talking about this dream that she has, and she lets out the word einmal, which means once, and she stops herself. Strauss abrupts it, he gives einmal here, and then it stops. And Octavian gets a little interested, and he says, was war einmal? Music, was war einmal? You notice the first time we go here, there's a rest, and he comes in on the second beat. Was war einmal? Music. Then here he comes in on the downbeat. Was war einmal? And it rises in pitch. Was war einmal? Then we go over here. Bichette, bichette. Here he gives us an 8th note. Here he gives us a 16th note. This shows that he's getting more and more anxious. This one's rather calm and slightly still in his head, because we get a little more anxious here. He's going out of his head. Bichette, 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 bichette. When I'm preparing a role, after I've done the translation, all these things, I'll look at a passage like that and I'll say, why? Why is he repeating the words? Why does he change the rhythm? What is the emotion behind that? So that it doesn't come out bichette, bichette, but it comes out bichette, bichette. The second one is much more insistent, much more nervous, much more excited. I have to ask myself those questions about why the notes are there. When I'm singing Rossini or Handel, I get the chance to ornament things, to express different things. I get a lot of freedom in the vocal style, you know, especially in Handel. Strauss has written everything in, every crescendo, every piano, every pianissimo, every accent. There's no musical decisions to make. So my job becomes, how can I infuse this, the text and the rhythm, with life? I want to show you another example. This is a heartbreaking scene for me. It's the end of Act 1. Ugh. And she's breaking up with him. The Marschallin is breaking up. And she says, Heut oder morgen, we've all been there, Heut oder morgen kommt der Tag Octavian. And look what we get here. I'm sorry this isn't scanned. It would be much easier to see. Okay? First one is legato and eighth notes. Okay? Nicht heut, nicht morgen, ich hab dich lieb. Then here he gives us a 16th note and he gives us a rest to show anxiety. So the first one, nicht heut, nicht morgen, ich hab dich lieb, nicht heut, nicht morgen. So simple, one little phrase in the opera, but I sit there and go, why has he changed the rhythm? Why does he break up the phrase the second time? First one, he's saying, he's trying to I mean, this is my interpretation, you'll find your own. But the first one he's saying, what did you just say? Nicht heut, nicht morgen. What does that mean? Oh my God, this is bad. She's breaking up with me. Nicht heut, nicht morgen. And he starts to get, and then he goes into the explanation of why he doesn't want to think about that day. He doesn't even want to see a day like that. You know, these are the little itty bitty details that can help you bring a character to life. It takes a lot of question and imagination to fill in some of the blanks. You know, this time I'm looking at the roll and I say, the first one, nicht heut, nicht morgen. He's repeating it to say, did I hear that right? What does that mean? Maybe the next time I come back to Octavian, I'll find him more angry. Nicht heut, nicht morgen. And I sing it very differently. What I'm talking about here is giving yourself choices. Look at what the composer has given you and ask yourself questions about what that might mean. Then use your imagination to fill in the blanks and create a character that comes to vivid life. This score is full of a billion different examples like that, and my head is spinning from it. But that's the exciting part. That's the creative process that we get to go through. And for me, once the foundation is laid of role preparation, like I talked about in the other video, this is where we come to life. And this is where we get the chance to communicate something to the public that is fresh and new and interesting, and it makes them think, and it makes our characters flesh and blood. For me, imagination is the greatest key to your artistry that I can imagine. We, in society today, we sometimes don't, we don't amplify that part of us. We're very black and white, technical, computers, blah, 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 blah. Imagination. Let your mind soar, ask yourself questions, play with colors. Imagine that you're painting when you sing. That's my best advice. I don't know if it's good or not, but it's mine. So, good luck, have fun, play with it. Music has to be played. That's how we all started out loving music, and that's a vital, vital element to what we do. So, good luck, get your highlighters, and then get your imagination going. Ciao.
I'll get there with imagination. I'll get there